All right, so let's get started. I'm recording this for the vault, and so I'm not going to do a group discussion like I usually do. We'll do that after I stop recording at the end. But if you have a piece of paper, you can write down, take some notes as I go through the discussion questions as well. So I'm going to share my screen and start here. Just with our review of the Enneagram and the different core motivations and the different ways that different Enneagram types see the world, because if you're not familiar with the other Enneagram types and how they see the world, you might not be able to think of how this might apply to other people. But that's why we're going to go through that first. So, um, of course, we have the Enneagram here with the nine personality types represented by the numbers and those lines connecting to show us how we might take on the negative or positive behaviors of another type, sometimes during stress or security. And so let's just go ahead and look at the quick review I have here. So the first one is number one, the reformer, sometimes called the perfectionist, but they prefer the reformer. Uh, and they use, they're principled, they're purposeful, and they're self-controlled, and they see the world and themselves as needing to be improved. That's kind of their worldview. Type two is the helper, and they see the world as people needing love and care, and they're caring and generous and people pleasing. The achievers, the type three, they see that success and accomplishments define value. And so they're success oriented, they're adaptable and driven. The individualist, they believe that authenticity and meaning are everything. There are more deep emotional folks, and they're expressive, sensitive, and introspective. Type five is the investigator. They believe that knowledge and understanding create security. So they're observant, innovative, and independent. The loyalist believes that the world is uncertain and trust and security is key. So they are responsible, anxious, and loyal. The enthusiast, they believe life is full of opportunities and possibilities. So they're fun-loving, spontaneous, and optimistic. Challenger, that's type eight. They believe the world requires strength and protection. And so they're confident, assertive, and protective. And finally, type nine, the peacemaker, believe that harmony and peace keep my world balanced. So they're always looking to see how they can have peace in their peace and peace outside. So they're easygoing, receptive, and accommodating. So each Enneagram type has core motivations. They have a core fear, core desire, a core weakness, and a core longing. And today we're talking about desires, core desires that drive our behavior. So we are always running away from our fear and running towards our desire in the way that we think and behave. So let's look at the three broad groups that we'll be talking about today. The first group is belonging. So types two, six, and nine all strive to belong. So that means that they have connection, safety, and harmony with other people. Type two, or sorry, number two is respect. Types one, five, and eight would like to have respect from others. They want integrity, autonomy, and strength. And the third is admiration. Types three, four, and seven long for admiration. So for type three, it's recognition, type four, uniqueness, and type seven is significance. And I'd also say for type four, sometimes instead of unique, the word should be special. But when we understand these desires, we can understand our behaviors better, we can understand others better, and help us respond with more grace and understanding. So, what do you think? Which one stood out to you? Did you feel like you um, might be in the belonging group, the respect group, or the admiration group? And why did that resonate with you? Okay, and think about what your goal is today as we go through the rest of the workshop. What do you hope to get out of this? Maybe think of a specific relationship you're hoping to improve based on this knowledge. So we're going to talk about how our motivations can lead to fulfillment or frustration. So when our core desires are fulfilled, we feel seen, understood, and connected. But when they're unmet, it can be frustrating. We can disconnect from others. We can have unhealthy behavioral patterns. So here's an example. So for type six, they want to feel belonging. And if they're not feeling supported, it often leads to anxiety and lots of worrying and overthinking. For respect, a type one, if they're not being taken seriously, they're going to be more rigid and harbor resentment because of that. And then, for example, a type three, they desire admiration. So if they feel unrecognized, they're probably going to work a lot harder to be recognized and be successful, which can lead to overworking or burnout. So when we recognize someone's core desires, we can help them feel valued, understood, and even in the moments of tension, we can understand them better instead of being triggered in our response. We can just maybe identify what they're needing here based on what we're learning today. So let's get more specific. So the belonging, types 2, 6, and 9, these types desire connection, safety, and harmony. And it actually lines up here that 2, connection, 6, safety, and 9, harmony. And they all desire a connection in some way. But the type 2, that's more strongly the connection versus safety, for example. So they're called the helper, and their core desire is to be loved and appreciated. And so an example would be you have a friend that's always bringing dinner and offers to help you when you're stressed, but they sometimes feel unappreciated when others don't reciprocate or acknowledge your efforts, especially an unhealthy two. An unhealthy two is doing these things in order to get the acknowledgement and the appreciation. Um, but a healthy two can do it and not always, expect to get that back. But if they do, if you notice they're feeling, they're having some moods, they seem like they're uncomfortable or they're unhappy, you can think about, oh yeah, I forgot these guys really want to feel connected. So I'm going to show them some gratitude and praise them on how they're connected with others and how they reach out to others. So you always think of others and it means so much to me. How can I show up for you? So often type twos do not share their own needs because they want to always be there for other people. And they think if they share their own needs, it will make them look bad or it makes them takes away from how they're trying to love on others. So asking them, how can I help you? They may actually say, you know what? Thank you for asking. You can help me this way because they're not going to ask you. But if you ask them, they might share how you can help them. Type 6 is the loyalist. And so they desire to feel secure, supported, and prepared for what's ahead. These are the guys that have some anxiety, maybe about what that worst case scenario is going to be. And think about planning a vacation. Your partner is asking questions about the vacation plan. Where are we staying? What's the backup if it rains? And sometimes you might take that as, what, don't you trust me to do this? But they're not being critical, but they do need reassurance to feel secure. So you can respond with offering clarity and reassurance. I've got us covered. Here's the plan, and I'll handle anything if anything unexpected happens. Okay, so then we have the type 9. Their core desire is to maintain inner and outer harmony. So in a family meeting, your sibling keeps quiet and agrees with everyone to avoid conflict, even when you know they have a different opinion. So you see a type 9 not speaking up when you know that they probably aren't really wanting to go along with everybody, but they're doing it in order to keep the peace. So you can say to them, and the problem with that is that they have resentment or some deeper feelings because they are not getting their needs met or heard. So you can say, I really want to hear what your thoughts are. What is your perspective on this? And directly asking them will allow them the opportunity to share what they might not have shared before. And they can see that by sharing, they are building connection with people. They sometimes think they're hurting connection when they share if it's not exactly what everybody else wants to hear. But you can reassure them when they share that, oh, we're so glad to hear your opinion. All right, so the next couple types are wanting respect. So our types 1, 5, and 8, and they want integrity, autonomy, and strength. So we're going to look at type 1, the reformer. They are the ones who desire integrity, to be good, right, and principled. So your coworker is a type 1, and they get so frustrated when others cut corners on a project or ignore deadlines. And they're not just being picky. You might think, gosh, they're just being picky, but they really value doing things the right way. And if they aren't familiar with the Enneagram, they might think other people have the same view as them that and just aren't living up to it. Not knowing that everybody has their own 9 different types of seeing the world, and their particular type sees it as doing everything perfectly right. Other people have other priorities, but affirm them and how they're committed to integrity there. Say, I appreciate how much you care about quality. How can I support you to get this right? Okay, our type 5 is the investigator. They want to be capable, knowledgeable, and self-sufficient. So imagine your partner spends hours researching before making a decision about buying a car. They value autonomy and don't want to be rushed. So you can respect their need for time and gathering information to make them feel more secure. See, I know you need space to figure this out. Let me know if I can help you or when you're ready to talk. Okay, and then there's type 8, the challenger. Their core desire is to protect themselves and remain strong. So imagine you have a type 8 friend and they get defensive in group settings if they feel like their opinion is being ignored or not being taken seriously. So they like to have some more control in the situation. So you can acknowledge your strength and say, I see where you're coming from and your perspective adds value here. And just let them know that we do care about your perspective. Doesn't mean you have to go along with it, but you can validate that they've shared that and that you think you're glad that they've shared. And then our third group is the admiration group. And they desire, again, recognition, specialness, or significance. And the type 3 is the achiever, and they're going to want to be admired, successful, and valuable. Your coworker shares an accomplishment during a team meeting, but no one really acknowledges it. They start withdrawing or overworking to prove their worth. So instead, you can celebrate their hard work. You really put in the effort and it shows. Great job. Then there's this type for the individualist. Their core desire is to be unique, authentic, and deeply understood. So if you have a friend who feels misunderstood when others kind of don't take them seriously when they express creative ideas or their emotions, they call them dramatic or they're too much, they're going to probably withdraw and or just feel unseen. So you can affirm them and say, I love how you see the world differently. It really inspires me. So again, they want to be seen as special or unique. So you can validate them in that way. And then type 7 is the enthusiast. So these guys, their core desire is actually to experience joy, freedom, and satisfaction. But they want to be loved for this. They want to be admired for this spontaneity, for their sense of fun. And so imagine you have a type 7 spouse who's planning a lot of activities for the weekend, but gets upset when the plans change or slow down. And it's because they fear being trapped or bored. And you can appreciate their energy while also offering balance. Say, I love your excitement for life, but let's find time to relax together. And that might help them in that situation. So think to yourself, what challenge do you have right now that more understanding of personalities might help? So think about some relationships in your life that if I knew this about that person, I could support them in a way that's more meaningful. Okay, so let's look at some discussion prompts for each group. For the belonging group, think of a type 2, 6 or 9 in your life. How do they create connection, safety, or harmony? What happens when they don't feel this? Okay, so you might not know the Enneagram types in your life, and that's totally fine. But you might know someone who is trying to always create connection, safety, or harmony. And I can think of a relative in my family who's very concerned about safety, and that's a way that I can reassure her. So here's an example. My sister, type 6, calls me constantly when something's uncertain. Instead of dismissing her, I can reassure her. Okay, number 2, the respect group. When was the last time you saw a type 1, 5, or 8 frustrated? How could understanding their core desires have changed how you responded? So again, you probably don't know everybody's types, but you do know people who are very committed to getting everything perfectly right, or they're very committed to really researching and having knowledge before they move forward, or people who really like to be in control and have their ideas listened to and respected. So here's an example. My boss got angry about small area errors. I realized he just wants me to meet a high standard. So you can have a little bit of grace, even though you might not be able to be perfect. Of course you can't, but you can have grace that that's kind of what's inside their head. That's their worldview, and they have a person, an inner critic in their head, always telling them what they're doing wrong. And sometimes that comes out to other people as well. So you can have some grace for that. And then finally, our admiration group. Who in your life, type 3, 4, 7, seems to thrive on recognition, uniqueness, or adventure? How can I affirm them in a healthy way? So you might have someone who's kind of works a lot and they're always trying to meet the next goal for success. That would be a type 3. Possibly you have might have someone who's more emotional, who seems more melancholy, kind of wanting to get some attention for how different they are. Or maybe type 7 who's always planning the next thing, always wanting to do something, think about the next fun thing on their list. So how can you affirm them in a healthy way? Let's look at an example. My type 4 friend shares her poetry, but she's scared no one gets her. I can encourage her talent without judgment. All right, so how do we put this into action? Practice the pause. When someone's behavior triggers you, stop and ask, what core desires might they be trying to fulfill? Then shift your perspective. Instead of taking it personally, get curious. For example, if a type 8 friend is abrupt, recognize they're asserting strength and not rejecting you. So that one's a hard one for me. When someone speaks to me in a certain way, I take it very personally. I'm very sensitive. But if I say, okay, this person is possibly a type 8 or another type that's more assertive, and it's not about me, it's about the way of communicating. And I can approach them or and give grace to that. So I can tailor my response to get to their core motivation and offer words and actions that build bridges. Okay, so what is one small step you can take this week to affirm someone's core desire, whether it's belonging, respect, or admiration? So think about that. I have some opportunities here for doing a free worksheet, kind of to look at this about yourself and about your loved ones. You can work on that on your own time here at this link. Of course, I have if you're not a member of my Facebook group, I'd love for you to join me there. And then there's some free openings for calls that I'd love for you to attend. And for those of you who are seeing this in the vault, you can always book your back pocket call if you have some of those available. So that is all for today. I hope you learned some more about yourself and about others. And thanks everybody for being here. And I'll see you next time.